The sky over the region was clear, the kind of visibility pilots value and ground observers often misinterpret. For those watching from below, the aircraft cutting across the horizon looked familiar, fast, loud, and fleeting. Over time, patterns had formed in their minds: which aircraft passed overhead, which stayed distant, and which were vulnerable. That confidence, built on assumptions rather than certainty, set the stage for a serious misjudgment. The U.S. fighter jet was conducting a routine mission, nothing dramatic, no aggressive posture. Its presence was meant to signal awareness, not provocation. The pilot followed a predictable flight path, one designed to monitor activity while avoiding unnecessary escalation. From the cockpit, sensors quietly absorbed data, radar signatures, electronic emissions, subtle changes in the environment that human eyes could never detect. On the ground, however, a different story was unfolding. Observers interpreted the jet's altitude and trajectory as routine transit, not active patrol. In their experience, some aircraft passed without consequence. Others stayed too high to matter. The distinction between present and engaged was blurred, and that blur bred overconfidence. The decision to act did not come from certainty, but from momentum. Delaying would mean questioning previous assumptions. Acting meant reinforcing them. The belief was simple: this aircraft would respond like others before it, either by disengaging or remaining distant. What they failed to understand was that modern fighter jets do not rely on visible reactions to assess threats. By the time the jet was noticed, it had already noticed everything. From the pilot's perspective, the situation shifted subtly but unmistakably: a sensor alert, a change in signal behavior. Nothing dramatic, but enough to confirm intent. This was no longer observation. It was escalation. Training took over. Procedures activated smoothly, without panic or haste. The aircraft did not change course sharply. It didn't flee. It didn't charge. It simply prepared. The misjudgment lay not in the act itself, but in misunderstanding the balance of awareness. One side believed it had chosen the moment. In reality, that moment had already passed. The engagement window had closed before the first action even began. What followed did not look like a battle. There were no dramatic dogfights or visible explosions in the sky. Instead, there was speed, decisive, overwhelming, and precise. The fighter jet responded before the situation could fully develop. Defensive systems activated in silence. Countermeasures deployed not as a reaction, but as prevention. Signals were disrupted, guidance confused, and targeting assumptions unraveled in seconds. To those on the ground, it felt as if the aircraft had vanished and reappeared at will. The pilot never lost situational control. Information flowed continuously: threat vectors, distance calculations, response options. The jet was not alone, even if it appeared to be. A network of support airborne, maritime, and satellite-based expanded its awareness far beyond the visible horizon. This was not one aircraft responding to a threat. It was an entire system adjusting its posture. Attempts to track the jet failed repeatedly. Each movement was faster than prediction. Each adjustment nullified the previous assumption. The gap between intention and outcome widened rapidly. What had seemed like a calculated action now felt chaotic and disorienting. Then came the demonstration of control, not excessive force, not escalation for spectacle. A clear, unmistakable signal that the engagement was over before it could begin. The jet repositioned effortlessly, maintaining dominance without lingering. It did not need to pursue. The message had already been delivered. For those on the ground, the realization was immediate and unsettling. The aircraft they thought they understood operated on an entirely different level of awareness and capability. Their tools, effective in other contexts, were irrelevant here. The environment itself had turned against them. The jet exited the area as calmly as it had entered. From above, the region returned to silence. But the silence was different now, heavier, charged with understanding. The true impact of the event unfolded long after the jet disappeared from view. No headlines captured the full significance. No dramatic footage circulated widely. Instead, the consequences spread quietly, reshaping behavior and expectations. On the ground, confidence was shaken. Assumptions were questioned. Patterns that once felt reliable now seemed dangerous. Future decisions slowed, burdened by doubt. The cost of acting had become unpredictable, and unpredictability is the enemy of aggression. For the U.S. military, the incident reaffirmed a core principle. Deterrence works best when it is credible, restrained, and precise. The goal was never retaliation, but prevention. By responding decisively without excess, they reinforced the boundary without expanding the conflict. International observers took note. The encounter became an unspoken case study in modern air dominance. It demonstrated how quickly the balance can shift when technology, training, and networked awareness converge. It also reinforced a sobering truth. Outdated assumptions can turn routine situations into irreversible mistakes. Perhaps the most lasting effect was psychological. The sky no longer felt neutral. What once seemed familiar now carried uncertainty. Every aircraft overhead prompted new questions. Every assumption required re-evaluation. In the end, no prolonged battle occurred. No dramatic escalation followed. Yet the message was unmistakable. Choosing the wrong target, even once, can redefine the rules. This was not a story about destruction. It was a story about restraint, awareness, and the cost of miscalculation in an era where the decisive moment often passes before anyone realizes it exists.